So, hold on. So, today I'm going to be talking about school. Anyway, sorry, I just got a message from work. And, so I'm going to talk about school and what it was like going to school while, um, having schizophrenia. So, in high school, I didn't get diagnosed until I was, how old was I? I was 21 or 22. Yeah, so I was 21 or 22. Well, I'm 22 right now, but I'm turning 23, so I'm basically 23. But um um yeah, so I didn't get diagnosed until recently, so 2 years ago, but I've now that I've looked back on it, I've definitely had symptoms ever since I was in elementary school. Because, like, in elementary school, I would think something and then I would, like, believe that other people were reading my mind, like, in elementary. And then, same thing in high school, I thought certain people could read my mind. Like, I had certain people that I was uncomfortable around because I felt like they were people who could read minds. I even had this, like, not still, but I even had this theory that there's like a conference or like a congregation of mind readers who are like who congregate with each other and kind of like they can read minds but other people can't, and these people who can read minds kind of like gather or whatever, and like there's a special group like almost like the Illuminati of mind readers type thing. But yeah, so I've been showing symptoms of schizophrenia ever since I was in elementary school, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was in university. Um, in when I was like see, I'm hearing voices right now, honestly, like, and they're very negative, like saying things like, "Oh, you're an idiot, you're ugly, you're fat," stuff like that. Like, there's sometimes the voices can be positive. Like if I'm having like one time I had a panic attack and the voice was like, "Are you okay?" And then another time I was shopping for clothes, and then it said in my language, in Tagalog, which is a Filipino language, they said, "Ang dami mo ng damit," which basically means you already have so many clothes. Why are you gonna buy more? Um, yeah. So again, even at work right now, I work as a preschool support teacher, as you may know if you watch my previous uploads. Like I feel like certain coworkers can read my mind or something, and it makes me really paranoid and uncomfortable. But that's just that's just how it goes. But anyway, so talking about school. So elementary was fine. I mean, I did have that thought broadcasting issue, which basically means thinking that people can read my mind. And then in high school, I had one hallucination. It was a visual hallucination, and it's so far, I think I've only had 1 to 2 visual hallucinations because my hallucinations are auditory. So that's why it's very rare for me to have a visual hallucination. And one visual hallucination I had, I don't know if I saw a ghost or if it was an hallucination or what, but yeah, very rarely do I have visual hallucinations, but I had one in high school, and that was before I was diagnosed. But high school was fine. Elementary school, I was like a little bit like it wasn't. I didn't have a lot of friends in elementary school. Actually, like the friends I did have were were not real friends. They were fake friends. So that was that. But high school was a lot better than elementary school. Well, in the U.S., it might be considered middle school because it was grade 6, grade 7 that I had a tough time. But in high school, I made friends and I got good grades, and was in I took the dance classes as an elective, and it was high school was fine. Yeah, nothing really bad happened except, well, I had one of my friends passed away, but other than that, it was fine. And then university was when the trouble started, when I started hearing hallucinations or voices. That's when it started. Like, it started in like 2015. Um, like, I would hear voices while I'm trying to study, while I'm in class. Like, one time, I just couldn't, it just wouldn't stop. Like, the voices, I don't even remember what the voices were saying, but they were just like really loud. And I was in my, it's funny because the class I was taking was attention. It was a class about attention. I was a psychology major. Ironic, right? Anyway, so I was a psychology major and I was taking a class about attention, and I couldn't pay attention to the professor because these voices were just like bombarding my mind and talking, and kind of, it's kind of like talking through walls, like as if, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like when I'm in my room and I hear I'm having auditory hallucinations, it feels like they're talking through the walls type of thing. So that's what happened. But anyway, so there was a period of time after where I was on the SkyTrain, which is like train, the train going home from school, because I went to a commuter school, and I started crying because like the voices were just too much for me to handle at that point, and it was so hard for me. And I called my parents and I was like, hey, can you pick me up at the train station because I don't want to take the train because I'm getting stressed out. And I was like crying, and it was so difficult. Like, I think commuting to school was one of the worst parts of, like, because even now when I commute to work, because I don't drive, I still hear voices and auditory hallucinations, and also I do the thing where where I think people can read my mind. So there's that aspect. Um, some techniques that I learned. There's a technique where you try to ground yourself. Like, I tried that when I was in my class and hearing voices. Like, you look at a clock, you look at something that you can see, something that you can hear, something that you can touch, something like, it's like using your senses or whatever. I mean, it wasn't really that helpful, but it was okay. Like, to be honest, my grades after I was diagnosed were not particularly good. I don't know if that's just because I didn't study as much, or if it was because of my condition. I did get registered with the Center for Students with Disabilities, so I could take exams in a private room or get more time during exams, which is fine. Um, Funny thing too, my psychologist, or um, yeah, I live in Canada, so it wasn't like a psychologist that I paid. It was through some type of government fund that I had a psychologist, and he showed up to my class one time as a guest speaker, and I was like, whoa, that's weird. He was my previous psychologist. But anyway, so at the beginning of university, I had a GPA of 3.67, which is pretty good, I think, for like, but my school was a 4.33 scale, but 3.67 to me was still pretty good. That was like, I got straight A minuses in my class, which is, which was great, I guess. And then the next semester, I wasn't diagnosed with schizophrenia, but I was diagnosed with depression. And even though I was diagnosed with depression and had like suicidal ideation and stuff like that, I still got, I believe it was 2 A minuses, 1 A, and a B plus. But then after that, I started getting C's, and every semester I had a C, which really dropped down my GPA. And by the time I graduated university, my GPA dropped from the first year was 3.67, and then when I graduated, it was 2.8 something. So again, I had I had many plans like getting a master's degree or something like that, but I decided not to do that. Well, it's not like I decided, it's just that I don't like I can't I know I can't get in, or the chances of me getting into a master's program is really really low because of my low GPA. And I know I can explain that away by saying, oh, I had a disability. I was hearing voices when I'm taking exams, or hearing voices when I'm trying to study. But I don't know. I just feel like it's not all about the condition. Like, I know I could have studied more, or I don't know. I just kind of, not that I'm discouraging going to university, but like in my province, or even in like my country, Canada, like I feel like these days, like a college, like a community college or like a technical school is a much better option than a university. Because for university, if you have a bachelor's degree, like the market is oversaturated with people with bachelor's degrees. So it's not that easy to get a job, or at least not easy to get a high paying job. Like even right now, I make a little more than minimum wage per hour, and I have a bachelor's degree. But I know some people who went to like colleges, not universities. Like there's a difference. Colleges are like, community college. Like they make more than me now because they have a they had a specific program, they had a practicum and everything. So like I would suggest going to, because like I went to a university, and then there are other schools. Like there's this school called BCIT, which is the British Columbia Institute of Technology. I really think that's a good school, and I kind of apparently it's a lot more intense, but like it would have been like my cousin, or my second cousin, went to BCIT, and she works with my mom now actually at a laboratory, because she did her medical laboratory technologist or medical laboratory assistance diploma at BCIT. So, and she makes more than me. So, and by the way, if you forgot, I did my Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology. And again, I know Bachelor of Arts, it doesn't really prepare you for a job. But even my friends who have a Bachelor of Science, like I have a friend who has a Bachelor of Science in biology, but she couldn't find a job, so she's going back to a college, or maybe it was BCIT or and she's doing nursing now. So again, university, like it was a good experience. I had a job in a university. I worked for my university, or at least the career services section of my university, and I wrote like a blog series about disability issues and disability rights and all those things. And that was published, and because of that because of that series I wrote, I got to speak at a conference about it. And like I know there's this, I'm quite a jealous person, and I had a classmate who gave a talk at some fancy psychology conference because she did an outstanding project or something regarding borderline personality disorder, and she spoke at a conference, and her GPA is really high. But me, with my low GPA, I got to speak at a conference, and about because of the series that I wrote. So yeah, so I guess there's that consolation to it, and I met mentors there where I worked. So yeah, I guess there is some benefit. There were some good things about me going to university, but yeah, um, I just kind of powered through, and like I was just so happy when I finished. Like despite all everything I went through, like the panic attacks, the depression, the auditory hallucinations, I was still able to finish my bachelor's degree. Like when I was in the middle of it, I thought about dropping out so many times, but I decided to finish it. And I know it's just a piece of paper at the end of the day, but it's a piece of paper that I worked hard for. So I'm happy about it. Um, I do I am sort of thinking about whether I want to go back to school, like to a community college or some type of. I mean, I like the job I have now. I just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna have this job next year because, I take care of these kids that are, they're in preschool, but then next year they're gonna be in kindergarten, and it's a preschool, so I'm not gonna I don't know if I'm gonna have students next year. So I was thinking of doing like an ECE course or something, um, like an online course, just to add on to my bachelor's degree. But I'll have to think about that. But yeah, so elementary, high school, university, I've done it all, and I did it while experiencing mental illness, and like if I can do it, anyone can do it, really. So yeah, that's the encouragement, encouragement that that's the encouragement that I can give you. So yeah, cheers.